slightly nervous about spilling everything now. That little bit in brackets, that was not supposed to be there. That was for me. So sorry about that. I'm Cassandra. I do business development for a Singaporean micro-publisher. I also write fiction for money. Spoiler alert, it doesn't pay very well. But it has exposed me to a fantastic community, and they've been doing a lot of stuff that I find really interesting, things that we can incorporate, I think, into our own industry. Hence the whole what video games can learn from the speculative fiction community. How do I use this? The red one.
Yep.
Is it playing up?
It is.
Oh, the one to the right. That's the pointer.
There you go.
It
There
moves.
you go. You can.
So I'm going to start with the oldest line in the book. What are video games? Video games are a form of digital entertainment. Video games are a multi-billion-dollar industry. Video games are the roar of a AAA production, the soulless perfection of a Call of Duty DLC. Video games are Hyper Light Drifter. They are LucasArts games. They are a whole bunch of stuff. They are the works of hundreds of people working day and night, 70, 80 hours a week. And they're also the work of a single guy over the course of 5 years working patiently in his bedroom. Video games are a lot of things, but most of all, they are about love. And that's a weird thing. I don't really see that sometimes, not in this current era anyway. Part of it, something that I've noticed at least, is everyone's got a genre. If you go into any discussion with a group of gamers, and you present the question, what do you play? Everyone starts staring a little bit weirdly at everyone else. MMO players get looks from people who play bro shooters. If you like Japanese games like Hyper Dimension Neptunia, at least one person has probably given you a funny look for it. And that's interesting. Like, there's nothing wrong about keeping to what you love, what you care for. But at the same time, I have to wonder if that is also limiting us in some ways. So the thought kind of came up. I will explain this in a moment. It's not fair. I'm supposed to present this, then you laugh. Jesus, guys. So, all this pondering started when I read an essay by a Bay Area playwright named Sunil Patel. And he was talking about how he read a bunch of romance novels and enjoyed it. The reason being that he was friends with a lot of romance writers, but he had hated romance books, and he decided that made him a hypocrite, so he had to stop and he had to read it. And he starts his essay off by going, more or less, what are romance novels? Heaving bosoms, throbbing members, ripped bodices, Fabio. Like, when you think of romance novels, what do you think? Probably not the best things unless they're closeted readers over here. Anyway, the essay goes on. And he goes to talk about what he found enjoyable about romance novels, what he found interesting. He said the characters are complex and relatable, which makes a lot of sense. Because unidimensionality, not sexy at all. And there are other things that were quite really interesting, this being one of them. I'm not going to read that quote, you read it. He talked about how sex scenes were used to forward narrative, and that occurred to me as a really interesting premise. We're very used to the idea of sex being something that is produced by kindness coins. Choose the right dialogue options, talk to the people the way you think they should be talked to, and then get a sex scene at the end of it, which isn't actually true if you look at how relationships work. Power plays happen, dominance happens, there are establishments of feelings and thoughts and stuff, and relationships can be broken or strengthened by that very human act, and we don't really do anything about that. And there are also other stuff as well, like how the women have to respect themselves, partially because most of romance novels audiences tend to be women anyway, and you can't really have sexist books that appeal. And so that is neat. This is someone that's forcing themselves to read a different genre and gaining something else from it. Could we do the same for us? There are a lot of video game academics who go into a lot of detail about it. But us as gamers, we have this tendency to stick to one category or a certain set of categories that we do enjoy. Is that limiting us? Especially if you're talking about journalists and writers. Would it not be better if we knew the full spectrum of our industry when we're writing a review, a feature, an interview, rather than just sticking what we know? Also, romance novels are probably both those things. And this makes a lot more sense to me than the last bit, because this is a terrifying thing, this talking in front of human beings. The other thing that the speculative fiction community offered in terms of an interesting viewpoint is a rising tide lifts all boats. I hate to say this, but if you look at how Twitter works, people have a habit of signal boosting a circle of friends, games that are being curated by select blogs, by websites that they trust. Everything else kind of just fades along the wayside until enough people build momentum to make you interested in it. How many times have you been on Facebook and Twitter and Reddit and seen a new release and thought, I don't care. I know I've done it a lot of times. But with speculative fiction, very often people just push one another. You get big names talking. They give guest blog spots to new writers. There are weekly tweets, weekly roundups of names, big and small, and that pushes everyone up at the same time. And that's great, because writing pays horribly, Jesus Christ. 6 cents is considered pro-rate. If you've ever complained about your commission from a website, trust me, it could be worse. And so, maybe we should do that too, as an industry itself. Share our reach. Go out of your way, even if no one's paying you for it. Talk about other people, people you don't know. Reach out. Because there's a chance that they might become really famous. And it might help you after that. Hey. Marketing is everybody's problem. So, I'm not sure if you guys recognize the two names up there. They are fairly well-written people. Brandon Sanderson has produced far too many books at this point. And Ben Aronovich did Rivers of London, and that's apparently really popular. I've never read it personally. But they've had interesting stories. So I heard this from the commissioning editor of their publisher. One of their publishers, at least. Brandon Sanderson, for example, before he became a worldwide phenomenon, he had a newsletter that had like 100 people on it. And while he was trying to make a name for himself, he would email every single person individually if he was in their town saying, "Hi, I'm here doing a signing. Would you like to do a meetup?" And he actually credits this with the growth of his books, because people want to feel that they are cared for. People don't just want to be a source of money. So that is interesting to me. And Ben Aronovich had a slightly more mercenary approach to it. When he released his first book, and I cannot confirm this, but this is what I've heard, what he did was he spent, I think, £200 buying gift certificates. And he gave them out to every single person he ever promised a book to and said, "Can you buy this book at this specific hour?" The reason for that is apparently momentum is extremely important in Amazon. And if you want to get to the top of the list, you have to maintain that momentum. So what he tried to do was artificially create a way for himself and just push himself upwards into becoming a name. And I wonder if we should be doing that as well. As developers, as publishers, we fall into this unfortunate trap of waiting for the press to write about us, waiting for Reddit to pick up on our stories, to put trailers out there, we hope. I mean, there are people who are trying to do better. Tiny Build does some fantastic promotional events, and Feel Better too. Surprise look. But yeah, should we be doing that? Should we just be waiting around for people? Or should we be doing what these two guys are doing? Should we be doing what self-published authors have been trying, Jesus, have been doing for a long time, trying to get themselves into a market that is so saturated and so full of competition that if your debut novel fails, that's it. You're going to get publishers telling you, "I'm sorry, you don't make your advance, go away and never come back." And there are people who do never come back, and it's horrible. But there is a lesson here to be learned, that sense of independence, that sense of innovation, and dare I say it, the sense of desperation to get out there to the public. So yeah, maybe we should be taking a few of these lessons, including, I think, the last and the most important one for me, enthusiast press. It's easy to dismiss people. And we spend a lot of time looking at sites like IGN. We spend a lot of time going to Rock, Paper, Shotgun, PC Gamer, anything below 5,000 followers, and we have a tendency to just kind of drift away. I'm just speaking in generalization. If you don't, good for you. But at the same time, the people who are running this without money, the people who are championing causes with no hope of resonating into the void that is the internet, should we just push them aside? Because if we don't, we're talking about 500 people, 200 people, and every single one of these tiny sites coming together, advocating what you're putting out there. And if we don't consider that as an opportunity, that is just a waste. Oh, that's my last slide. Sorry.